Hello everyone and welcome to the video. I will be going over a brief overview of the Campus Sustainability Grant Program and how to apply for the Campus Sustainability Grant Program. So the first thing you want to do is you just want to be on your everyday browser, whether it be Google, any of that, Chrome, Edge, Firefox, any of those would work. And you are going to go to Sustainability Initiative's website. You can get to our website in two different ways. The first one will just be to type in GSU Sustainability into the browser, and then Georgia State University Home Sustainability Initiative should pop up, and that will take you to our website. Or you can type in this URL directly, which is sustainability.gsu.edu. You type that in, it should take you to our website. Once you're on our website, you're going to look at this blue bar where it says initiatives, and you're going to click on Campus Sustainability Grant Program. This page will have everything that you will need in order to apply for the program. So just a really brief overview, the Campus Sustainability Grant Program is open to current Georgia State University students, faculty, and staff to advance sustainability through education, research, service, and campus operations. This program is funded by $5 student sustainability fees paid for by students each semester, and then project proposals can be submitted as an individual project or on behalf of a student club, registered student organization, or a university department. Now, all of these projects must address one of Georgia State's four pillars: research and innovation, student success, college to career, and identity and placemaking. And then additional consideration will be given to projects that also address the UN Sustainable Development Goals and or draw down Georgia's climate solutions. Now, when it comes to submitting a proposal, all project proposals are due by Friday, October 10th. And then grant awards will be issued Friday, October 31st. So please keep those dates in mind. And then some of the documents that you're going to need. You are going to need the application form and the budget template when you submit your application, but some additional information is the Sustainability Fee Council guidelines and the Sustainability Fee Purchasing guidelines. I'm going to go over the Sustainability Fee Council guidelines just very briefly. When you submit your proposals, they will be looked at by the Sustainability Fee Council. This council is a body of individuals that will be looking at your proposal, evaluating it, and then approving or denying the request for funds for your project. This guideline just kind of goes over everything surrounding the Sustainability Fee Council that you guys need to know, like the purpose of the council, how the membership of the council is formed, sequence of the meetings, the criteria in which the council will be voting on the proposals and evaluating them by, and then processes for evaluating the proposals and determining the proposals, what information is required to be accessible online, and any other operating procedures that y'all would need to know. I will be going over the Sustainability Fee Purchasing Guidelines after we look at the application form and the budget template, so that will be coming up. So first, let's look at the application form. So when you click on the link, it will take you to Dropbox. And when you're actually on Dropbox, you can look that you are not able to edit the document when you are in Dropbox. However, you can still download a copy of it, and you do not need to have an account to do so. If you look up here in the right, next to this little comments box and between the copy link box is the download button. It's the one with the little line and the arrow pointing down at it. If you click that, it will prompt you to log in or sign up for an account. However, if you just look at the bottom of this box, it says or continue with download only, and you can click that, and then it will download as a Word document where you can edit everything. So let's look at the instructions really quick for the Campus Sustainability Grant Program application. So the proposal should include this form completed and the attachments needed. So if you are a student or a student applying on behalf of a student club, you need to have a faculty or staff sponsor letter of support. And this letter should A, have the faculty staff member endorse the project and its significance with respect to campus sustainability, and B, they also need to state their willingness to actively engage in this project as needed to aid in its successful completion. And then also include any other supporting documents that you might need, like maps, charts, etc. And then proposals, including this form and the attachments, as well as the budget template, should be submitted as one PDF file with a standard file name format with your last name dash campus sustainability grant via an email to sustainability@gsu.edu by the deadline, which again is Friday, October 10th. And then this last one where it talks about departments being responsible for purchasing items via Panthermart and assigning the cart to the designated Sustainability Initiative contact for oversight. All grant funds must be expended by May 30th and in accordance with university policies and procedures for state funds. So we will be going over purchasing in a little bit with the purchasing guidelines. But this in of itself is not required for you to know to submit the application. This is for people who have already gotten approval for their project, and I will show you that document where you can learn more about that. But for the purposes of submitting the application, it is not necessary. So when you are looking at your application, this is exactly what it's going to ask. It's going to ask for your project title, and then whoever is the principal investigator, so the person who is filling this out and submitting it. Whether you are a student, staff, or faculty member, and then please include your name, email, and phone number. If you are a staff and faculty member filling this out, please also provide your department or your unit. And then if you are a student filling this out, please also put in your degree program, your expected graduation date, the name and email of your faculty or staff advisor. And then if you are applying on behalf of a student club or a registered student organization, please also enter that as well. Um, Sometimes multiple students will be filling out the application for it to be submitted. So if there are any other student collaborators, you can put their name and email and they will also get credit for filling this out as well. So what other things are we going to be asking? We are going to want you to provide a project summary. This is a very high level summary of what your project entails, but then we also want you to go a bit more into detail about your project. So please provide a detailed description of your proposed project. What are you proposing to do with the grant funds? And also be as detailed and as persuasive as possible. The judges who are judging this are likely unfamiliar with your work. So please use this opportunity to inform them and get them interested in your project. Identify SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, achievable, and realistic goals, and then also provide a narrative timeline and implementation showing how you will use all the grant funds by May 30th. Next, we also want you to detail how your project impacts the 4 pillars. The 4 pillars are initiatives that have been identified by President Brian Blake as being the most impactful to the present and future of Georgia State University. And again, those 4 are research and innovation, student success, college to careers, and identity and placemaking. If you want to find out more about what these mean, you can click this hyperlink right here and it will take you to the 4 pillars where you can look more about what research and innovation means, student success means, college to careers, and identity and placemaking. But then we also want to know how your project fits in with regional and international sustainability metrics. One of those is the Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations. The UN identified 17 of these goals that range from zero hunger to affordable and clean energy to sustainable cities and communities. So identify the SDGs that your project advances and explain how your project reaches these steps. And then Drawdown Georgia is a statewide initiative to identify the top 20 high impact solutions that will help Georgia achieve significant emissions reductions. These 20 high impact solutions fall under 5 categories, and that is electricity, buildings and materials, food and agriculture, land sinks, and transportation. So please identify the specific solutions your project will advance and explain how your project will advance these solutions. And that is actually it for the program application. So now we are going to be looking at the budget template. So this does the exact same thing. It pulls up in Dropbox. However, you can click this button to continue with the download so you can get this downloaded. So this is what the budget template is consistent of. Please put your project title at the top, and then these 2 boxes up top are if you're requesting stipends or hourly wages for students or GRAs. So this top one is if you are requesting hourly pay, and the second one is if you are requesting a monthly stipend. So the difference between this is if it's an hourly pay, the student will only be getting paid for how many hours they work. So if they work 18 hours in a month, they'll be paid 18 hours for that month. However, student stipends work a bit differently in which there is a set amount each month. So it's like no matter what, if you work 18 hours this month or 20 hours this month, you will be paid this amount of money. Um, so that is where these would go. And then any materials and supplies, and then this is categorized by items that cost less than $5,000 individually. So some examples of materials and supplies would be maybe flyers, stuff that you would hand out at tabling events, um, or like we have a few gardening groups that have applied for grant funding in the past, and they would request like gardening gloves or maybe tools for when they host like service events and stuff like that. So those would be considered materials and supplies. This is if you're requesting any equipment, and equipment is anything that's generally considered that's individually over $5,000 each. It is less rare that you will actually fill out equipment, and you'll most likely just fill out materials and supplies. And then other costs that you might be requesting, if you're requesting cost for food, you would put food here. If you are requesting cost for, let's say, event space fees, you would also be putting that here as well. And then you have your total down here of like hourly pay, monthly stipends, materials and supplies, equipment, and then other with your total. Match is something where we have had groups in the past that have said that they are requesting this much money and they themselves will match it, that much money. So let's say they request $2,000, they will match it with $2,000. This is not something that is very common. This is optional. It is not required. So if that is not something that y'all are going to be pursuing, you do not have to fill out these boxes at all. Now we are going to look at the sustainability fee purchasing guidelines. So this guideline talks about what can and cannot be spent using the sustainability fees. And so you can spend money for food, for events, as long as you provide the agenda, flyers, attendance sheets, and pictures of the event. You can also use the funds for conference registrations, hotels, airfare for the conferences, and per diems, as well as student travel expenses. Let's say you want to have some speakers come and speak to your group, you're welcome to have that as well. Any supplies that y'all might need. We do allow student stipends or wages and GRA stipends in certain cases with certain groups, and then event space fees. Funds from the grant program cannot be spent on faculty wages or stipends, and then anything that you haven't initially requested in your application that we haven't approved. Um, And then the rest of this document kind of goes over how to access your funds once you're approved, how to use PantherMart, which was the expenditure system mentioned in the application. But like I said, that is not necessary to know for the application process. Um, so a few other things that I want y'all to keep in mind. This year we have about $70,000 for competitive proposals in our campus sustainability grant program. So please keep that in mind when you are applying and determining how much you are requesting, because we are splitting that $70,000 across several groups. So please do keep that in mind. And then there is a report here. It is our annual report about the Campus Sustainability Grant Program from fiscal year 2024. So these are projects that were funded in 2020, fall 2023 to spring 2024. So if you look at these, I highly recommend you do so you can see like what groups have applied for funding in the past and what they have used it on. So the Atlanta Herpetology Club, for example, they used their grant funds to fund their survey camping trip, their guest speakers, some tours, and miscellaneous materials and supplies. Um, but you can see their sustainable development goal is life on land, their Drawdown Georgia solution, but then also their research and innovation through Brian Blake's 4 pillars. So there are a bunch of different proposals that were funded through the grant program that I would highly recommend that you look through to see. And then we will be updating it with our annual report from fiscal year 2025. So our fall 2024 events to our spring 2025 events within the next few weeks. So please keep an eye out for that. But I would highly recommend that y'all look through this to see if there's anything that you might need. And then as well, there are the 2023 winners, so the year before this, and then any past winners before that. So you can look to see what has and hasn't been accepted. Um, so if y'all have any questions, please email sustainability@gsu.edu. That is all I have for you today. And I hope that y'all have an amazing day. And I will answer any questions if y'all have any. Thank you. Bye.